One of the deepest UFC events of the year featured a dominant title defense and multiple performances that set up future title fights. Welcome in to MMA Live Extra. I'm Phil Murphy. There were stories aplenty coming out of Las Vegas after UFC 178, and who better to discuss them than the man who was cage side, ESPN MMA writer Brett Okamoto. Brett, in the main event, Demetrious Johnson made his 5th title defense after getting Chris Carriazo to tap. He continues to mow through these flyweights. Who in this division poses the biggest threat to this guy?
Yeah, that's becoming a real difficult question to answer. Demetrious Johnson is making these things look easier and easier each time he goes out there. I think really the only name that you can point to right now of a guy who can challenge Demetrious Johnson would be John Dodson. Those two fought in January of last year. It was a good fight. Demetrious Johnson won by unanimous decision. Dodson actually dropped him at one point with a straight left hand. But even John Dodson, I just think Demetrious Johnson is too much for him. If Johnson wants to just hang out and keep collecting title defenses at 125, I think the chances of that happening are pretty good right now.
Let's go to the co-main event. It was an entertaining fight between Cowboy Cerrone and Eddie Alvarez, with Cerrone getting the unanimous decision win. But Cerrone drew the ire of Dana White afterwards due to his fight week activities on Lake Mead. What effect could wakeboarding and Cowboy's affinity for these extreme sports have on a future title shot?
Yeah, none, really. The answer to that is none. It's not going to stop him from getting a title shot. Of course, Dana White, as a fight promoter, would rather Donald Cerrone go and sit on his couch, when he's not training for an MMA fight. He doesn't want him doing extreme sports where he could injure himself. But that's become part of Cerrone's reputation. I don't see it changing, and it's not going to affect his career in terms of what opportunities he's going to get. If Cerrone doesn't get a title shot, it's going to be because he accepts a fight and loses it. Realistically, he could sit on the sidelines and wait for a title shot against the winner of Anthony Pettis and Gilbert Melendez in December, but Cerrone wants to fight sometime before December. So it looks like he's going to accept another fight, and if he wins that, he'll get a title shot. If he does not, then he won't.
Brett, this was certainly the biggest grudge match of the card. Conor McGregor being a man of his word, finishing Dustin Poirier in the first round. Where does this result place McGregor in the featherweight title picture?
I think that you could make a case to make Conor McGregor a #1 contender right now, just based on his marketability and the fact that he's finishing fights, putting guys away. He's an interesting fight for a Chad Mendes or a Jose Aldo, but me personally, that's not what I would want to see next for McGregor. This guy is one of those fighters who just improves drastically in between fights. His last fight was only 2 months ago, and he still showed some new things that we had not seen out of him in this win over Dustin Poirier. So in my mind, give this guy another 6 months, book him another fight, have him fight someone like a Chan Sung Young, an exciting fight, continue to build the legend of Conor McGregor before you rush him in there against an Aldo or a Mendes.
Brett, Yoel Romero's third-round TKO win over Tim Kennedy was mired in controversy after Romero spent some extra time on the stool before the third round. What do you believe should be done in this situation?
Well, unfortunately, if you're Tim Kennedy, I don't think anything really can be done in this situation. He has said that he wants to appeal to the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I just don't see an appeal changing any type of result for Tim Kennedy. It's a tough pill to swallow. Watching live, I thought referee John McCarthy could have done a better job of clearing the cage quicker and getting that fight started sooner. But after rewatching the film, I don't think that there was a whole lot McCarthy could have done. It was just a perfect storm of circumstances in which there was too much Vaseline on Romero's face. His corner didn't speak English, so they were not. They didn't know what the inspector was trying to tell them. The inspector did not remove the stool, as he probably should have. So it's tough for Tim Kennedy, but I don't think anything is going to change for him here.
This card also featured two much-anticipated returns. Cat Zingano and Dominick Cruz were both victorious after long absences from the octagon, and both earned title shots. Brett, whose result impressed you more, the Dominator's domination or Cat's comeback?
Man, that's a tough question to answer, having to pick one over the other. I'm not even sure if I can do it. Dominick Cruz coming back after nearly 3 years and just looking tremendous. We all knew this guy could fight, but seeing how comfortable he was on that surgically repaired knee was eye-opening, I think, for anybody in this division, and even just watching the sport. It was definitely impressive. But then you have Cat Zingano coming in, and it just felt like she was not going to be denied a win, that she was going to do whatever it took to get back in the win column after a long layoff for her as well. So call them 1A and 1B, and I'm glad both of these guys get a UFC title shot in their next bout because they earned it at UFC 178.
He's ESPN MMA writer Brett Okamoto. Brett, thanks so much.
You got it, Phil.
Well, that'll do it for this edition of MMA Live Extra. Keep it locked to ESPN.com/MMA for all the latest news from the UFC. For Brett Okamoto, I'm Phil Murphy.